Welcome to WTF Wednesday. Guys, I'm sorry I was out last Wednesday, so I didn't get to record WTF Wednesday because I was a little bit on the sick and shut in list, a little under the weather, all of that good stuff. So, anyway, I'm back and we have an exciting topic to cover today. We are going to be talking about trust accounts and why trust accounts can't always be trusted. So let's get into this segment today. This is going to be a good one. So sit back, grab your tea or whatever your beverage of choice is, and let's talk about these trust accounts. So, all right. Now, this segment is about where truth, finances, and the fine print collide. Okay. Y'all know who I am. I'm Dr. Tanya, and today's episode is going to be all about trust issues. Trust issues. When your trust account becomes state property. Yeah, you heard me correctly. We're talking about something most people assume is airtight. And by that, I mean trust accounts, right? So, and how even under the radar, they can end up as unclaimed property in the eyes of the state. Y'all ready? Because this one's going to sting just a little bit, especially if you're one of those individuals who always talking about trust accounts. All right, going to give your money to the state. But anyway, let's get into this key point number one. What is a trust account anyway, right? So let's start with some of the basics. A trust account is typically set up to manage and distribute assets for someone's benefit. For example, minors or beneficiaries of a will, or even court-ordered settlements. Most oftentimes, attorneys, banks, and even financial advisors often act as fiduciaries over these accounts. Now, a popular one we know that's not so positive in nature when it comes to banks taking over your coins is the Wendy Williams situation. Okay, we don't want that kind of stuff. But anyway, here's the kicker. Just because the money is sitting in a trust account doesn't mean it's protected forever. So keep that in mind when you go run get your trust account, trying to hide assets and don't want folks to know what you got. But don't nobody care anyways. Moving on to key point number 2. When the clock starts ticking, every state has unclaimed property laws, and most have what's called a dormancy period. And it's usually between 3 and 5 years. If there's no owner-initiated activity on the trust account, like withdrawals or deposits or some form of communication going on between you and that bank, guess what? That trust account might be presumed abandoned under your state law. Yep, even though the money is technically held in trust, it can still be flagged if it's dormant. And by dormant, here are the 3 criteria, most common criteria. So the beneficiary can't be contacted. That's one red flag. The fiduciary fails to act, which means that the fiduciary ain't doing nothing. He ain't making no deposits or any withdrawals, and he's not communicating with the bank to let them know what's going on or what ain't going on or what ain't happening. So there's no communication, and there's no documentation of any activity that might exist. So for example, some people put funds in trust accounts to send their kids to college. Some might put trust accounts, different situations. It might be based on a child's age, or at a certain age you can get the trust account, but you still got to have some type of communication going on. Otherwise the bank say, give me that money. They're gonna be all in it. Anywho, let's get to key point number 3. The state steps in. This is a lesson for y'all in escheatment 101. Okay, and here's where it gets real ugly for you. If the trust account is deemed unclaimed, the funds must be turned over to the state through a process called escheatment. When I used to be an auditor back in my way back in my day, yeah, we used to get them escheat funds real good up off you. The trustee may have to file reports with the state's unclaimed property office, and once transferred, it's up to the rightful owner or the heirs to come claim it. And no, The state doesn't call you and say, hey, we about to take your trust fund money. They just do it like Nike. They just do it. Now your money gone. Key point number 4, real talk, how this happens. So let's get into some real world like WTF scenarios, because this stuff actually happens. So grandma sets up a trust fund for little Livia and passes away. The trustee moves, loses contact, and never tells little Livia. 10 years later, Livy finds out her missing money is now with the state treasurer's office. This stuff really happens. Second scenario, a law firm holds settlement funds for a client who's incarcerated or moves without forwarding info. The trust just sits. So boom, it becomes unclaimed property. If it goes past that dormancy period, sorry for ya. Scenario number 3. A parent sets up a uniform transfer to minor's account and forgets to notify the child when they turn 18. Nothing happens. They don't forget. Silence equals escheatment equals, and now you ain't got your money no. So the point is lack of follow-up or documentation triggers state involvement. Key point number 5, what you should do. All right, here's what you need to do to avoid this nonsense. I'm going to check them off for you. Check them off. Maintain current contact information for all beneficiaries. Next, document all activity and communications. You should also reach out annually to confirm status and intent as it relates to the trust account. So if you set up a trust account for little Billy Bob over here to go to college, and he going over up here to UGA in Athens, and he unfinished his 4-year degree, and you still got money sitting in that trust fund. Okay, if little Billy Bob decide he's not going to go to grad school, you need to figure out what you're going to do with that money, or at a minimum, you need to reach out to the bank or the institution and say, hey, he graduated. Leave this money here in case he decides to go off to grad school, or if I find or designate another purpose for it. But at a minimum, you are communicating, so you are letting the bank know, hey, I know I got this money over here y'all holding for me, but this is mine's, and no, you can't have it. Also, you need to review your state dormancy laws, because state dormancy laws vary by state. All states are different. Some may be similar, but remember, states set their own laws and requirements and stuff like that. So review yours wherever you are, wherever that trust account is. Make sure you know what the dormancy laws are and the dormancy period. Also, report and remit dormant trust funds if required to stay compliant. Okay? So now listen, I'm just going to give you the skinny of it. All right. First and foremost, once this money goes into or becomes unclaimed property, right? Y'all, it can be very difficult and a very cumbersome process to try to reclaim your money. Now, the state ain't going to be in no tissy fit and no hurry to get you your money back. So you're going to have to remain diligent. You're going to have to make sure that you complete all the required paperwork, which may in some states include you having to provide the state with a copy of your birth certificate, driver's license, whatever that state requires. Baby, you just got to get into it and be all right with it so you can get your money back. Okay. So here's the WTF takeaway for today. Trust is good, but oversight is better. Whether you're a beneficiary or a fiduciary, don't assume the funds are safe just because they're in trust. States don't play when it comes to unclaimed property, and they will snatch that cash faster than your cousin at the family reunion barbecue. Okay? You've been warned. Don't let your trust fund vanish into the government black hole. You might not see them again. Anyway, that's it for today's episode of WTF Wednesday. Be sure to follow me, Dr. Tanya, on YouTube and TikTok at It's Just Me, Dr. T, for more real talk about money, law, and all the fine print they hope you don't read. Until next time, stay woke, stay wealthy, and stop letting your trust accounts ghost you. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.